You might recognise that bass sound from every rap song ever made. It's a sound that is synonymous with the genre and can be found in jazz rap, boom bap, trap, basically any variation of modern rap music. But how did this end up being the case? How did 808 bass become the standard for rap music? To understand that, we have to go back to 1980, when Roland came up with an idea. A lot of people practice playing music in their homes, but very few have space for a whole drum kit. So what if there was a smaller machine they could use to have a rhythmical element to their practicing without having to actually invest in a whole kit? That was the mission statement of the original 808. There was just one small problem that they ran into, which was it sounded absolutely nothing like a real drum kit. As a consequence of this, it was a massive commercial failure, and they stopped producing them in 1982, just 2 years after it was first launched. But then something else happened. People began finding the 808 in second-hand shops across America, particularly in areas like Detroit and Chicago, where a new genre of music was emerging. These people didn't care that the drum kit didn't sound realistic, because they didn't want it to. This is when the 808 was rediscovered and repurposed by the pioneers of house music. A lot of the new sounds coming out of house in the mid-80s came from finding obscure music equipment and pushing it to its limits to see what new sounds you can get out of it. This had a large impact on the development of house music, but one discovery in particular would go on to completely define the sound of rap music for the following 4 decades. Because what they realised was, if you take the bass drum and you crank all of the settings up to full, particularly decay, this starts to happen. The kick turns into a sustained bass sound. The reason why this happens all comes down to the 808's unique design. Compared to other drum machines of the time, such as the Linn drum, which used drum samples, the 808 had transistors which allowed it to produce sounds through analog synthesis. This meant that when you pushed the parameters all the way up, it could make some new, unique sounds. And what was initially supposed to represent the decay of a kick drum being hit turned into a resonant pitched note. People loved the deep, boomy sound this made, and it was quickly co-opted by big artists at the time, including LL Cool J, Public Enemy, and even Marvin Gaye, who used it on his song Sexual Healing. It got people moving and was a particularly aggressive sound to be used in music at the time. People would literally play it so loud that they'd blow out their speakers. Not that that was particularly hard to do in the 80s. Once mainstream artists started using it, its popularity exploded and its unique sound became integral to the development of hip-hop. The artists that have used the 808 in their music, whether that's directly from the drum sounds or the bass sound that came from it, are numerous. But to give a few examples, the Beastie Boys, Tupac and Biggie, Dr. Dre, Kanye West made a whole album just using 808 drums, Playboi Carti, Lil Nas X, the guy who said what the hell-y. You get the idea. Once we entered the digital age and people started producing music using a computer, they found ways to recreate the 808 bass sounds. This allowed for greater flexibility when shaping the sound. For example, you could add much more distortion, make it way more compressed, more aggressive sounding. In general, it just led to a lot more variety in the types of 808 sounds being produced. And now, for example, on plugins like Serum or Vital, you can easily create your own. This is why now, if you type in 808 bass on Splice, you'll come up with tens of thousands of results. Over time, people began to use the term 808 to refer more to the bass than to the actual drum machine, and it kind of lost its association with the machine that the bass sound originally came from. The impact and longevity that this sound has had on modern rap music, especially considering it was discovered completely by accident, is actually crazy. Some have even compared the influence of the 808 on modern hip-hop to that of this Fender Stratocaster on rock music. But what can we attribute its success to? What aspect of that sound made it stick around for so long? Well, in my opinion, it's the fact that there's beauty in simplicity. The sound itself is very simple, it just consists of sine waves with very few harmonics. That simplicity also translates to versatility, and there's lots of different uses for the sound. It fits into a lot of subgenres easily, whether that's jazz rap, drill, or much more aggressive sounding 808s like you might find in trap music. And they all scratch the same itch because people like low frequency information in their music. Even though other electronic genres such as house, drum and bass and garage for example have for the most part moved on to different bass sounds now, it still remains incredibly prevalent in modern rap music, and I suspect that it will have its place within the genre for another few decades yet. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Hopefully you found that interesting. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. It's the first time I've tried making a video in this style and I quite enjoyed it, so I'm probably going to be making more in the future. All the beats in this video were made by me. If you want those, I'll put my email in the description. You can just drop me an email and I'll send them over to you. Alright, cheers.